your host, Sean Lynn, in the pub for a Dram with friends, where we talk about faith, family, food, and fun. Pull up a chair and I'll pour you a drink. Episode 85. We are blessed to welcome Steve Norman to the pub, where he will talk about his 212 group, which helps form men. Sit back as I pour us a dram.
Oh, we get to pour into here.
You said your wife got you the Rose and Co. Well, my wife got me this here, and it's a cask, so I've got some Irish whiskey in there.
Nice.
And have to test it every once in a while to see what it's like. So
very good.
Look forward to it. It's a little bit of wood in there, so
that's
some added flavor.
Yeah. Well, happy Easter to you. Thanks for this invite.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. We just met 2 days ago, but for those that don't know, as I didn't know, who is Steve Norman, and welcome to the pub.
Thank you. Well, cheers to that. I'll take a quick sip to get us started. Steve Norman. So I am 35 years old. I live in Stratford, Ontario, with my wife and 2 kids. My daughter's birthday was yesterday. Yeah, when we first met. My daughter just turned 2, and my son will be 5 later on. So husband, father. I'm the youngest of 4. I have 3 older sisters. Actually, my dad's more close to you. My dad was on Vancouver Island. No, he still is. He's in Victoria. He just moved to Victoria specifically. Mom, dad, and other than that, I've been a high school chaplaincy leader, so a high school campus minister for many years. But I've kind of shifted out of that mode, and I've gotten to work with a Catholic organization down in the States, working remotely and traveling down. And so I've been in high school ministry for quite some time now. The deeper Son of God and all those other answers come along with it, but those are the nuts and bolts right there.
So Stratford, does that mean you're an actor in your spare time, or?
I have 0 acting, singing. I have 0 theatrical skills. I can be dramatic, I guess, but no, that's not me. My wife, on the other hand, she's a great singer, and she grew up in Stratford. Part of the reason why we moved here when we were expecting our daughter, our second child, just to be back around family and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And growing up with 3 sisters, I'm sure you were told what to do a lot. So.
Yeah. Especially Lessinger twins, and growing up often hear double trouble. And when they yelled double trouble, I started running because they would pin me down when I was little and just torch me in good, fun, sisterly ways. So
you got lots of mothering, I'm guessing. So
yeah. And I'm the baby boy. Whereas my wife, she's the oldest of 5. So I know we balance each other out, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
yes, I too am the oldest, as is my wife. So yeah, we're.
Oh really? Yeah, interesting.
And we have 8 children and 14 grandchildren. So
cool.
There's lots of excitement all the time, and no shortage of things happening around our house. So.
Yeah, no, I bet it keeps you on your toes, and it's amazing. Again, just meeting you and looking into some of, you're active. I know you mentioned you just retired, but how active you are with things and balancing all that must be a juggle act you're continue to perfect over the years, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm working on my wife getting into heaven as a saint. Is what it is. So she's been very supportive of all my endeavors, and I'm very blessed to have her as my support, and my children too. And we've incorporated the children for years into the ministry. So it's been part of what they do and normal, I guess, for them. And I remember when the older kids were younger, stuffing envelopes at the kitchen table with all of them. Now we send out emails. So.
Yeah. Well, that's hands-on, and I'm sure, like you said, they're chasing their own kids. Some of them, it sounds like. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we got talking because you are involved in ministry to men in your area, and it sounded like you had some neat things going on there. So what is it that you do out there for ministry to men?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to be approached by a guy named Brian Simpson, who works and kind of started a FFI, Family Foundations Institute, decades ago. It was just a handful of families gathering intentionally at a home just to help catechize the kids and be in relationship with each other. And then families were attracted, and that FFI kind of grew to they started renting out a school to host all the families. And then that spread and spread. Actually, in Calgary, they have a family catechism group FFI leads out in Calgary. So it's spreading across Canada over the decades.
Wow.
And then they started really just, again, FFI, Family Foundations, just pouring into families, leading couple retreats, father-son things, boys camps, girls camps. Now they have vibrant young adult ministry, high school ministry called Pure Life. And then so Brian approached me, I'm going to say roughly 4 or 5 years ago, and just said, hey, we have this annual Men of Faith conference that brings about 300 guys out every year, once a year. And the guys in the feedback forms are just looking for more. That they want something more throughout the year, not just a one-time event. Do you want to work together and try to think of something to kind of fill that need? And so we're in the London diocese, Southern Ontario. And so, yeah, so through praying and conversation and bringing a few key guys together to talk about things for a couple of months, we had this thing emerged called 212. And 212 began roughly 3 years ago now with the desire and goal to just help guys form interior habits of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Guys who've never had those habits, or guys who maybe have had them and have lost them and recognize it would be good to be in a structured arena with other guys seeking to do the same thing in an intentional way. And so 212 kind of emerged to help create that. And it, like I said, it's only been around for a couple of years, 3 years, and it's still kind of shifting. But the key pieces I would argue are in place. And we were talking about this, and you're like, it sounds kind of like an Exodus 90 kind of spread throughout a 12-month period. And that's a good way to describe it, I would say. Yeah.
Tell me, is there cold showers? Because that might be a deal breaker for me. So.
Yeah, there is. So yeah, we take the Exodus. So have you gone through Exodus 90?
No, I haven't. I'm well aware of it. I thought for older guys, Exodus 90 might be a little extreme, so we tried Sirach 45. So
okay. Is that a Calgary-based ministry there in the pub?
That was started with a few of the guys discussed, because it's about 3 or 4 years ago that the Exodus 90 kind of took off, and all the young guys were doing it, and my friend and a couple was saying, well, what are we going to do? And it had already started, and I said, how about Sirach 45? So there's about eight of us, and we started reading Sirach and
cool.
having lukewarm showers rather.
That's good. That's good. You got to start
just
somewhere.
Giving up little bits. Yeah. So that's awesome that you.
I was gonna say we had one guy. I'm sorry, Doug, who cold showers for him. I don't know. Doug is probably in his 50s, approaching 60, and he said, yeah, I can't do the extreme cold because it's for a health sake. My heart, I don't know if his heart could take it. He said joking, but seriously. So I think he would do the lukewarm as well. So there's definitely cold showers in it, but yeah, there's ways around it, I guess.
You don't do it for the whole year though, do you?
No. So 212, we meet twice a month for 12 months. And at every meeting, you take 2 out of the 14 ascetical practices that are in Exodus 90, and you just work on those 2 at a time. So cold showers is one of those 14. So you'll have cold showers, and usually it's like regular workouts for a 2-week period every 14 weeks or every 7th meeting. So it comes and goes, and in the summer it's not so bad, but if you're doing it in January, February, it's kind of extra salt in the wound, extra penance. So.
Yes, it's kind of like Ramadan in the winter's not a big deal up north here, whereas where the sun comes up at 4:30 in the morning and sets at 11 p.m., that makes for a very long day of fasting. So
exactly
in the summer, so
exactly, yeah. But we had, this past Easter, we just had a guy who is just been part of 212 for a little bit, but he just came fully into the church at the Easter season. And so 212, I think, is a great experience for a guy like that, because it kind of, again, creates a structured arena where he's working on having, for example, a daily rosary habit, or a daily examine, or just even a gospel reading habit. So guy, again, there's a perfect example. He understands and believes what the church is. He's entering into it, and now to live it out, I think 212 serves that kind of niche or demographic. But also guys who, like myself, Cradle Catholic, and other guys who just kind of get busy with wife and kids and jobs and things they know are petering out in terms of good habits. And so they step into 212 with the intent of sharpening those habits and recognizing it's through these habits that, they can be a little detached from the things they want to be detached from and more attached to other things. So
that sounds like a great thing for anybody, and I'll be following up with you to get more information, just to see if that's something that we can mimic out here, and see if there's, because guys are always searching. Like a brother never, if they want to try something new, right, or a workout, right, like that's normal. So why is it so odd that we would do that in the faith, where we'd encourage brothers to come and pray more often, or get in good healthy habits, is what is in essence what you're trying to do, right?
100%, yeah. And building in that accountability, a small group kind of feel, because 212, another significance is you just need 2 guys to start a chapter, and you intentionally grow it to 12, just inviting guys and seeing if it's a fit for them. But once you have a 13th guy, you discern a split, and now you have 2 smaller groups. So it keeps it to a small group. You're meeting twice a month. There's accountability. There's kind of like these challenges. You're in it together. You're kind of going through a training thing together, But I often say, and I have to believe this, and I do believe it, though, and I want it to be true, is that the Lord has been part of this process from the beginning, chiseling it out and maneuvering it. And I think it's the same for guys who want to be part of it or feel called to it. Because it is so we meet for twice a month for 12 months. It's a 1-year commitment when you join, which is a big deal, for different guys in states of life. Not just twice a month, but the 12-month part. So we have a 6-week onboarding process where a guy starts doing some of these rhythms and things without coming to the actual meetings, but he starts getting to know some of the guys from a distance and living the rhythms, prayer, fasting, almsgiving from a distance. And then after that 6 weeks, if the group and the guy are still like, yes, this is a good fit, he comes and now his 1 year begins. But we've had guys go through 2, 4, 6 weeks of the onboard, and they're like, yeah, this is not for me. I don't want to go through. Not just because of cold showers, but just different reasons. But it has to be this discerned thing of like, so that when you get into the 5, 6 months into it, and you start, you'd rather skip a meeting or not do cold shower. No. You signed up for this. You discerned it. Now you're in a position for a brother to call you out and challenge you, and vice versa. Go ahead.
It's very much like the Catholic Church. Like I was explaining to somebody today that we had a bunch of people join our parish. We had 21 come into the church at Easter Vigil, which is amazing. Yeah. But as Catholics, we want you to discern that prior to saying I do at the Easter Vigil. Understand what you're saying I do does,
100%.
And
yeah. I mean, ideally the RCIA program kind of does that, but you're right. I think it could be a trap. It almost becomes like a numbers game or a popularity contest, which you don't want it to be. Now, I don't know what your thoughts, because on the same token, like you can discern, but at the same time, it's like, you don't know, you're always learning as a lifelong disciple, right? You never get to a point. So like you have to eventually take that point. So yeah, I agree though. You have to think it through.
Well, and I was, there's a priest out there, Father Sean Winger, that him and I were having a talk and a whiskey, and he talked about doing a homily about and he just picked a name that was not a Christian name, and how do we get them from outside the church all the way to activated disciple, because there's points all along the way, and there's so many. It's one thing to get them through RCIA, and then how do we get them involved in the church and embrace and make them feel like they're welcome, and going from, as Jeff would call it, a fan to a follower. Like, right. It's one thing to know what the church teaches. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to go out and live it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that like cruciform kind of mentality, like, how do you instill in a guy? How do I instill in myself though? Like, Lord, I desire, or my friends, like my spiritual director, I want you to like press into me. I want you to like, I don't want to be just complacent. I genuinely want to be challenged and pulled out of my mess when I sit in it, And how do you get a guy to get to a point where like he wants that kind of accountability or challenging, right? Like, I think I don't know. So I'm curious, what did your conversation go with that priest? Did you guys come up with a magic answer, magic bullet?
Well, no, but like we were talking that, we're good at making spots along the way for people, but we're not good at making those connections to help them grow, right?
Yeah.
And we need to continually look at that to help people go from outside the church all the way to evangelizing people like you're doing. And so what, as a young dad, do you have a dad dish that you make, or
gosh, no,
something that the kids love to, hey Dad, are you making that again?
No, that's not my jam. I mean, peanut butter wraps and like, the simple go-to. I'm the barbecuer here. I barbecue everything, but I'm trying to think. Yeah, my son, he loves his fruits and veggies. Actually, we don't have to like force him to, like, he would eat that, and that's not really something I need to prepare. It's easy to kind of give to him. Whereas my daughter, who just turned 2, like, she's like a meat. She'll a carnivore to the T. Like, she'll eat anything and everything. So as long as it's some form of meat and cut up, she'll eat it. So I have my wife luckily likes to cook.
What do you make on the grill that's your specialty, or do you have one?
No. So I actually had a priest friend gift us. He came over for dinner, and he's like, listen, I'll bring the meats. You just guys prepare everything else, and Steve, you can barbecue. And he brought over 2 tomahawk steaks, which I had never barbecued before, and I didn't realize it. So I unwrapped them, $75 piece of meat each one, and it was a little intimidating. So I did some research so that was fun to go through. But I mean, that's something we ate more or less blue, or like very rare. But no, for me, it's just, I could eat chicken Monday to Friday. I'm a very routine, bland kind of guy. Burgers and chicken Monday to Friday if it was up to me. But it's not.
There you go. Yeah. So one of the things that I ask is that a lot of young men are struggling, as you know, working in high schools as a chaplain. And so what advice or what wisdom would you give your 18-year-old self?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So I grew up Catholic, but I was, into end of high school as an atheist, and then went off to university, and I was a staunch atheist studying psychology and philosophy. So part of me just wants to, throw some fists at my 18-year-old self and just try to knock some sense into that guy, because he was just so arrogant and prideful, and still working on that. But yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I had some friends over recently discerning these type of things of like, how do we engage guys, guys who we know are good guys, but just maybe coming to Sunday Mass, maybe not, And to us, the takeaway was just friendship. It's just like, for us, our role, like even the thing that you're just saying there about all the points along the road, for us, we were just kind of just thinking like that silver lining between that connects it all is friendship. A guy who is intentionally, whether he's in RCIA or now you just enter the church, or every step of the way, checking in and being open and intentional about friendship. And so 18-year-old Steve, I would kind of just more try to get him to ask him questions of like, tell me about your friends. Are they the type of guys that, at the end of the day, the type of man you want to be? Are they the type of guy they are? Are you hanging out with guys you want to be like? because the type of guys I was hanging around with, and it was, I was doing the same thing, I guess, but we're definitely not guys who I would say I was inspired by or looked up to or anything like that. I knew what we were doing wasn't right and good. So to me, it's around friendship. I think the advice would be like, hey, like just take stock of like who you want to be and who are you surround yourself with. That average of the 5 people you hang out with, or iron sharpen iron concept. Because I think I definitely was the type that I just wanted to be with the guys, and I just wanted to I didn't want to stand out, I just wanted to go with the flow with the guys, and that was not leading anywhere good. So,
well, and you say something interesting. So I come from working with youth at risk, and in the high fidelity wraparound model, we'd invite the young person to pick a team, and young men are very challenged. Like, it doesn't matter if that's your best friend, if he's not going to sink the basket, you're picking him last on your team, right? So pick a team that is going to help you achieve your hopes, dreams, goals, aspirations. And who is it that you're going to pick on your team? And they realize that the friends that they're hanging around with are not the people that they would put on their team to help them achieve their goals.
Right.
And that's one of the tools that we used that was very effective, because they knew that their friends didn't have their best interests in mind. Right. Quite often.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. They might be like a fun guy. I remember one guy specifically, I consider him like, one of my best friends in high school. I knew, right there. I knew at the end of the day, if I was in trouble, if I need some help, or if I was in, having a hard time or with whatever, he's not a guy I could go to with any of that stuff. But he was a blast to hang out with. He was the life of the party, and I liked being his friend just because of, all those experiences. But yeah, to do a gut check and that I think is a challenge in a high school, as like to get guys a 17, 18-year-old guy to think about that, even, and like, what kind of guy do I want to be? What are my goals and aspirations? Some of them might have them about school or careers or money or something, but I don't know. In your experience, did you find many guys, you saying they responded well to that, but like they would already have formed thoughts about the type of man they wanted to be? Like, did you find that was there?
No, and that's where it was an exercise, just telling them, okay, like you're in high school, where do you want to be in 3 years, 5 years? Like, what is it that you want? Like, starting that thought process. And that's where, unfortunately, I find today we don't encourage our young people to grow up. Where, they're just kids. Well, he's 23 years old. Or 25 years old, or whatever, Okay, yes, he is a kid in my eyes, but he's a man. Like, and especially young men want to be treated like men.
Yeah.
And encouraged to be men. Yeah. And shown how to be a man.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a floodgate of thoughts right now for me. Like, we used to, when I was in the high school, we ran a ministry called FIT. Faith in Training. It was 20-minute gospel reflection and then an hour high-intensity workout with the boys. And guys who maybe wouldn't come to chapel or other reflections or be involved with things I was doing as a chaplaincy leader would come for the workout, because I would have the hockey coach at the high school help me, and he was super, he's still, the CrossFit and athletics, and he would lead the workout, and together we would do the gospel. But what we found is I would hand out, this was twice a week, we handed out a gospel reflection. All right, boys, take this home with you. Read it, reflect on it, chew on it, write something down on it, and just come with one of your own thoughts about it, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, anything that stood out. And then we'll work out. And earlier on, we found out like guys would show up either without their paper, or let alone having read it or marked up, homework. Who wants to do it in high school? So it got to the point, it's like, all right, listen, if you don't show up with your piece of paper marked up, everybody's going to do 10 burpees. If you don't show up with your paper at all, we're all going to do 20 burpees. And then, the one time 4 guys don't come up with their paper and we do 80 burpees before our workout even begins. It becomes like this positive peer pressure. All of a sudden, guys are kind of, they're showing up with their paper marked up, they've read it. And it's slow to post stuff at them at the beginning, but Then by the end of this ran for a number of weeks, they had their own thoughts. They're making connections to other gospels. And I don't know how the Lord was working in their hearts. And I trust those scriptures alive and doing its thing, and again, that challenge of like, do this because you've signed up to do it, and don't not do it, or else you're not welcome here in a healthy sense, right? We give them a couple chances. And they responded to it though. Like to your point, the boys want to be challenged. You have what it takes to do it and you're not doing it. Do it,
You'll have to watch. I just had Dr. Leonard Sachs on, and he talked about that's how you get compliance is by making everyone part of the team. And then they start, okay, Johnny, get it with the program. I'm getting tired of doing burpees. So if there's somebody but Johnny doesn't want to let the other guys down, so he does it. So it's versus he has no problem letting you down, but he doesn't want to let his friends down.
For sure, yeah. That's the peer pressure of their world at that age, especially, and to use that and leverage that in a healthy sense. And I mean, it got into the point like we ordered like Under Armour shirts for them as our uniform, and okay, this is your uniform. If you don't show up in it, burpees. Then it was like, if I hear any swearing, we're going to stop the workout and, we're going to drop. If I hear any complaining about the workout, we're going to drop and do burpees. If you're done the workout first and you're responsible to go on to cheer your brother who's struggling or still going through it and cheer him on. If you just go off and get your own water and take care of yourself, that's not good either. And what this culture did is like, they just responded to it. Everyone was in it. And this culture of guys, and this is open to seniors, to like grade 9s to 12s. And the seniors really led it, and I intentionally, put a lot of leadership onto them. That like this culture of just guys are like, I'm in it. You see these grade 9s coming out of their shell. They belong to this brotherhood that's about performing well. But even if I fail and I'm struggling, my brother's there with me. I'm sucking at this thing, but he's still in my corner with me. And I think that's just super important. This identity of these boys of like, I love you too much to let you sit where you're at, kind of thing.
And that's what they're searching for. That's what the gangs are offering them when they're being recruited for gangs, because they're offering them that belonging, that part of something bigger than themselves. And you talk about swearing, and that's one of my things on the rugby pitch is I coach boys rugby that they're doing push-ups or sit-ups. If I hear anyone swear or when we were on a tour in Italy, I was taking a collection that we dropped off at the Vatican. Because if you can't control your tongue, how are you going to control your temper and everything out on the pitch and take a bad penalty and cost your team, right? So it's self-discipline, which is what you've been talking about all along with your 212, right? The self-discipline.
Yeah, and I would love to hear your thoughts because, I'll admit, I'm 30, I'm struggling in a sense in different ways at different points of like when that self-discipline kind of evaporates, or like you have a good thing going or just life happens and bombs dropped in terms of family upheavals or whatever the thing comes, a jobs change or, all of a sudden it's like you lose some self-discipline in the good habits. I don't know, in your experience, or what are your thoughts on like for me, it's just like having guys in my life who are aware of that and are already in a point in my friendship where they recognize it and say, hey man, where are you at? Or like, what's going on? I know things are, and like kind of are just there to, again, challenge me on like, let's go, let's keep moving. For me, without those friendships, I feel like who knows where I'd be, but. Yeah.
And that's awesome. And that's where, like I just tell people it's one day at a time, and you put one foot in front of the other, and and what for God Squad, and you're pointing to the goal, like the goal line or whatever, the end, because it's so easy to get caught into what's going on in the world and the mess but if you keep focusing on where you're going, I've written a couple articles where, when you call the police, you don't care what it takes to get there. You want them to be there, right? And same thing. So that's why we got to get there.
Yeah.
And not get in the accidents along the way, not get distracted by other things. We've got to get to where we're going, and that's home to heaven, and
right.
bring as many men with us and our families, of course. And on that note, Jeff Cavins talks about riding with your posse. Who are your go-to saints? Who are the ones that you rely on daily? Or
the only spot in our house. Otherwise, I got my kids train sets around me and like Lego stations around me. This is a little corner, at least the saint wall here. So John Paul II, especially earlier on in my conversion in my mid-20s, his philosophy, theology of the body, when I was a missionary, was a huge impact on me. Currently, I have St. Kateri there, just mainly for my daughter's sake. My main go-to saint, who I feel like really did and continues to seek me out, is St. Teresa of Avila. I just feel like that she was very fierce, didn't put up with a lot of nonsense, and yet I'm sure was still tender and loving, and just kind of what she did as a woman at the time that she did it, I just think is inspiring. My little thing of 212, we have 8 or 9 different chapters in Ontario, and my other apostolic life, I turn to her and just know and trust and believe that like she's interceding for me and walking alongside me. She is. And then Saint Andre Basset is someone, in terms of my work and my vocation, is just someone who his gentle spirit, I find, is just like reassuring that it's going to be okay. As a man, as a husband, as a provider, it's going to be okay. Just do the simple things with love. So
he's you can go deep with any of those saints, and that's awesome. I want to thank you for taking time to come and meet us in the pub. And I don't know if you know, but the term whiskey comes from a Gaelic term called Ishkabaha, which means water of life. And I pray that you lead many souls to the true water of life.
Oh, thank you. Praise God. Praise you. Thank you for this experience and all the work that you're doing too. And my wife and I was just out west in Calgary. We flew home from Calgary. Now I feel someone else I'll reach out to and see if I could grab a seat in person next time. So thank you very much.
That's awesome. And yes, we've got a pretty good collection for you to choose from when you're here. So
it's a good overwhelming feeling at that point. Awesome.
There you go. Thanks.
All right. See ya.
I hope you have enjoyed this episode of A Dram with Friends. Like and subscribe. Go to all podcast platforms to look for it on podcast, or go to godsquad.ca to support our mission.